Morning, it's Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. This is your Canadian Prairie weather story. I'm meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with Nutrien Ag Solutions. A couple things to start off here. We do have those fires continuing off to the north, and with flow in the jet stream coming out of the north, we've got some smoke being wafted down across the prairie at times, even down here into the Midwest of the United States. We've had very thick cloud cover, or a very thick cover of smoke looking like cloud cover over the last several days here. It's going to be dry across the prairie, much of the north central U.S. through the weekend. We do have a stormy period to talk to, though. We kind of hinted at this and starting to hone in on the June 10th through the 17th window for a more active period, better chances for moisture across the prairie as a whole. Looking at the satellite picture here, infrared satellite getting started on Wednesday morning. Just not a lot going on across the prairie. We've got a really tightly wound storm system here over the Atlantic with the big frontal boundary extending back to the west from that one over Florida. We've got a lot of thunderstorm activity in this area. We've got another front making its way through the Midwest right now, extending down to the southern plains of the U.S. A lot of shower and storm activity along that. But as you make your way back off to the north, here we've got kind of the main area of low pressure, and it's quite dry and just not a lot of flow on the backside here. Just dry, relatively speaking, throughout the atmosphere, and we'll kind of show that in a couple different ways in a moment. Radar picture, pretty quiet across the region. A couple areas of very, very light rainfall right now across the prairie, where you can find just some very subtle disturbances here within the flow behind that bigger upper air, disturbance, a bigger area of low pressure across the Hudson Bay vicinity. Temperatures right now, again, a bit cooler on the backside of that storm system, anywhere from near freezing, if not a couple degrees below freezing over in the Calgary area. Some of the higher elevations there, quite chilly, but single digits for just about everyone. A little bit warmer as you make your way into parts of southern Manitoba, 10 to 13 degrees there. When you're kind of just still out on the leading edge of the front sweeping through the area. So the radar, or the forecast radar, over the next several days, this is using the NAM model. We'll go ahead and wind it back here. We've got an area of low pressure that will kind of ride up and over the top of the ridge through the northern tier of the prairie provinces with the front sweeping through. But as I show you here in a moment, it's pretty moisture starved. So quiet over the next several days, just some, very isolated, very light pop-up showers during the afternoon today and tomorrow. This will be much, much more mist than it will be hit. In those who do see rain today and tomorrow, it's going to be of the sprinkle and very light variety. Now here comes this bigger area of low pressure. This is early Friday morning, June 6th into the 7th. We'll watch this area of low pressure kind of run through the prairie provinces, but not bringing much in the way of moisture with it. This is going to be another one that will kind of bring some southerly winds, followed by some westerly winds and a passing front to kind of adjust your temperatures and moisture slightly. But really only central and southern Manitoba can expect to see anything in the way of shower and thunderstorm activity from this, and it's going to be a very quick-hitting scattered shower and thunderstorm event, not one where we get rain parked over the region for a couple of days. This is, again, going to just be a quick-hitting chance for some brief rain across the region. And so when we visualize just verbatim from the NAM model, this takes us through Saturday, June 7th. Total precipitation, again, most people dry. The people who do see some rain, it's going to be very, very light in nature. Now, as I take it through June 18th, big difference. We get a lot of rain across the region with multiple chances for storm systems impacting the prairie provinces. The Canadian Prairie down into the northern U.S., into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region, getting a good run with an opportunity for multiple storm systems across the region. So this is the European ensemble model, the 7-day precipitation anomaly forecast here. Week 1 on the left, drier. Week 2 on the right, you see the big green shaded area there, taking up the prairie provinces, again, into the northern tier of the United States. That would be the June 12th or 11th through the 18th time frame. I mentioned June 10th through the 17th on my prior slide. This is just kind of how the model shook out when I kind of split it up in half here. But this tells the story. I love this chart, the precipitable water chart, because I feel like when I watch it, the entire pattern just kind of jumps out at me. And what you're seeing here is total moisture content within the atmosphere. So when you see the deeper green, the yellows and the reds, that's where we have very deep moisture. It's humid. And where you see the brown shading, that's where we've got drier air. So I mentioned we've got this frontal boundary extending from the area of low pressure, the upper level low over the Hudson Bay, where I'm kind of drawing the L shape with my mouse cursor, and then the front extends south through the Great Lakes into the Midwest and the southern U.S. Out ahead of it, deep moisture. Behind it, drier air. Now, as I animate this, we'll take this through the next 5 days or so through the weekend. You can see the flow across the prairie really continues to be northerly, if not sometimes northeasterly, bringing in reinforcing shots of drier air. So here comes the Saturday, or I should say Friday, Saturday, June 6th through the 7th area of low pressure that passes off to the north. This is not coming in and interacting with a deeply moist and unstable environment across the region like you might otherwise find across the southeastern U.S. Again, this area of low pressure comes charging in Friday and Saturday into an environment that has already had its moisture scoured by the lead system. Again, here comes this front sweeping through. It already has done so. Dry air in place. Well, then here comes another storm system on its heels. It has nothing to work with. That's going to continue to be the case into early next week. This is June 8th, 9th, into the 10th. Now, here you go. Pattern change. June 10th onward. Now we start to kind of reverse the flow. We build ridging, higher pressure here across the central United States. So the flow around that, now we're going to get some flow coming up from the Gulf all the way up the Rockies into the Prairie. So now we're going to saturate this whole area from the Canadian Prairie down into the Dakotas, the upper Midwest. And then what we would like to see is another run of storm systems that's going to come in and interact with that air mass that's ready to precipitate overhead. So watch the moisture kind of funnel in here as we get into June 13th, 14th now, getting into the 15th. You're seeing storm systems now coming in. I'll show you the jet stream that corresponds with this. But we've got a steady feed of moisture coming around this high to the east. We get low pressure to the west and an active jet stream. And this is the recipe for a much, much more active pattern across the region. So here's your jet stream. Again, area of low pressure over the Hudson Bay. Strong flow out ahead of that. We get the front sweeping across the region. So across the Prairie right now, it is simply dry and there are no storm systems. The flow of the jet stream is messy, disorganized, and overall weak. That changes, though, as we go through June 5th into the 6th and 7th. Here comes that lead system. You see the patch of stronger jet stream winds associated with that area of low pressure that comes in over the top of that ridge, has no moisture to work with it, and it kind of reinforces the drier pattern by bringing in that next shot of drier air that's going to linger into the end of the weekend and early next week, June 8th, 9th, and 10th, before we start to get that transition. It's subtle at first, but here you go. Next big area of low pressure starts to make its way in. We've got a ridge of high pressure now across the central U.S. We're allowing moisture to kind of feed back into the area, and you see this run of moisture where if we get started here, the beginning of this animation, I run it all the way back, you see how the flow is weak, it's disorganized. I jump all the way to the end of the animation. Now the strongest jet stream flow, it's running right through the Prairie, and we've got moisture in place to give us that chance for some rainfall. So this is kind of a fun way to look at this. This is the European and the GFS 6-hour CAPE forecast. CAPE is convective available potential energy, fuel for thunderstorms. It's kind of a way to look at the heat and moisture and other components there. They go into the ingredients for thunderstorm activity. And as you just look at this time series, we've got the forecast on the left starting June 4th, running through June 18th on the right. And as you look, the line is basically flat through the next 7 days. So June 4th through June 10th and 11th, with the chart being basically flat, that means we don't have moisture, we don't have heat, we don't have the energy available for thunderstorms. And then on top of that, I showed you the jet stream is weak and disorganized. So every reason to expect it to be quiet across the Prairie in terms of widespread precipitation through, about the 9th, 10th, or 11th of June. When we look onward there, and this is a point forecast for Maine, Center, Saskatchewan, but it's very similar as I click across the Prairie, just subtle differences here in the timing. But you start to see the chart get active, and that means, all right, we got the instability there, the fuel, the moisture, the heat there. It's going to be hotter and muggier across the Prairie, and as I showed you, that coincides with a run of more active jet stream conditions. So we'll monitor this. We'll have another chance to talk in a week to kind of assess where is this all shaking up. But this gives me every reason to believe that we should have much more significant rainfall chances across the Canadian Prairie during the week 2 time frame, June 11th through the 18th, June 10th through the 17th, however you want to kind of shake that out. And this would be the same place here or similar, Spring Valley, Saskatchewan, a 6-hour precipitation forecast. And you can see the time series is exactly the same here. The blue bars show daily precipitation events, and then the green bar shows total accumulated precipitation. And this, if you were to, take it verbatim, is showing over the next 7 days, nearly nothing. It's giving up in the top left. You see there 0.18 of an inch, and then over the next 15 days total, nearly 2 inches of rain. And you see it's because of regular rainfall opportunities. This is not all hinging on one precipitation event there. You see it beginning June 10th through the 17th. It's like every day, every 2 days, you've got the chance to pick up, a few tenths up to a half an inch, if not more here, if you get a good hit from one of these thunderstorms. So it's a believable window, and it's also one that includes multiple chances, and that gives me higher confidence as well, instead of saying that, hey, in week 2, we have this one big storm system that could give us some rain, and then maybe a week from now it all shifts. So this is something to watch over the next week. Got pretty good confidence here this June 10th through the 17th time frame. We can look at this then, just a 3-day sliding window of precipitation. You see it starts off pretty quiet there, and then it's right here we get to that window, June 10th through the 17th. Big window for precipitation across the prairie into the northern tier of the U.S. Now, I've really gone in depth with this already, and I haven't even shown you a precipitation forecast from the European model to kind of time this out a little bit. And so let's do that just as we kind of wind this down. It's going to be quiet here today into Thursday. This is Friday. This is that area of low pressure passing north on June 6th and 7th. Pretty, tightly wound area of low pressure. So some breezy winds associated with this over the end of the week, early weekend, but not much in the way of precipitation until you get into central and southern portions of Manitoba. Maybe a quick shot of a thunderstorm here during the day on Saturday into Saturday night. Maybe some residual showers or moisture lingering into Saturday and Sunday, but really, again, very brief, quick hitting, light in nature. The better chance for precipitation, broadly speaking, across the prairie starts to open up here June 11th into the 12th. You're starting to see, some of these first areas of low pressure kind of running in from the Pacific Northwest, moving across portions of the prairie, bringing in these, bigger green signals for wider areas of shower and more intense thunderstorm activity. This could, signal the opportunity for some severe weather across the prairie June 10th through the 17th and 18th as well. So keep an eye out. Active weather during this time of year, it can at times mean severe weather. So the next 2 weeks, who's going to be wet on the left, who's going to be dry on the right? This is the probability of picking up an inch or more of precipitation over the next 15 days on the left side here. You see the orange and the redder shaded colors. That is indicating a 60 to 80% chance of much of the prairie picking up an inch or more of precipitation by the time we get to June 18th. And then you look at the drier areas here over on the right, who's got the best chance of seeing less than half an inch over the next 15 days, and pushing that redder shaded area across the western, 25% of the U.S. there. That is a good start. Pushing the ridge further to the west, squashing it down south a little bit more. That allows those disturbances to ride over the top of the ridge right through the prairie, interacting with that more moist environment, giving us that better chance for shower and thunderstorm activity. Temperatures are going to be a bit variable as we see these fronts sweeping through the area. Again, the Friday-Saturday front doesn't bring much in the way of rainfall, but it will bring another front through the area, adjusting those temperatures. Broadly speaking, the next 15 days, I think we'll have more mild days, more days that are warmer than average than days that are going to be colder than average, but there will still be some shots of cooler temperatures as we move through the next 15 days. We continue to have kind of a reservoir of colder air available off to the north that we can bring in with some of these storm systems. And of course, a more active pattern, more in the way of cloud cover and rain. That's going to be a cooler pattern as well, just by nature. So still some opportunities for colder. I say colder, I mean cooler. We're getting into June and July. We're not doing cold air, but those opportunities for some cooler air, kind of, again, keeping the bigger heat at bay. Also a bit of a friendlier outlook as we look at the next 2 weeks overall. Fires continue to be ongoing. Again, the fire risk is going to remain high across the area, especially through the weekend into early next week. Looking at ongoing fires across the area right now, and then we'll take one more look here at the smoke forecast. Again, with jet stream flow generally, northwest to southeast across the prairie over the next 4 to 5 days, we are going to see some of that smoke from the areas off to our north brought down across the prairie and at times into portions of the Dakotas and the upper Midwest. It's going to be a smoky next 5 to 6 days until we get more in the way of storm systems moving into the area to help kind of change the flow trajectory, and then also just kind of give us some variety and kind of rain some of the smoke out of the atmosphere. So pretty smoky today. It's going to be the trend here. We'll just see these pockets of denser smoke, impacting air quality and sky conditions as we head through the end of the week into the weekend. Your temperatures over the next 5 days, again, pretty mild overall as we look at Calgary here. A lot of days in the mid to upper 20s, but you do see that cooler adjustment here as we get on the other side of June 10th and 11th. And again, that makes sense. If it's going to be cloudier and stormier, temperatures are going to come back down just a little bit. You see the same thing here in Edmonton. Saskatoon, Regina, and then Winnipeg, you are, maybe riding the roller coaster a little bit more than others. 26 for the high on Friday, 24 Saturday. You get that front sweeping through, the chance for showers and storms on Sunday. A bit of a cooler day there, that high only around 17. Back up to the mid to upper 20s as we get into early to mid next week. Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you again next Wednesday, June 11th, hopefully reinforcing what should be a wetter and stormy week across the Canadian Prairie. Have a great day, great week. Talk to you next Wednesday.